After years of quietly supporting my family, I offered my dad a retirement gift. He threw it back, accusing me of trying to show off. My name is Natalie, and at 32 years old, I started a $20 million business from scratch with no college education. For years, I silently supported my family financially while they judged my professional choices. Last month during my father's birthday dinner, everything changed when he called me illiterate trash and told me to leave his house. What he didn't realize was how accomplished I had become. 3 weeks later, the expression on his face made every tear I wept worthwhile. Before I tell you how I went from supporting my family to being called garbage by my own father, please leave a comment and tell me where you're viewing from. If you've ever felt underestimated by those who should have believed in you the most, click the like button and subscribe. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio, where expectations were straightforward and customary. My father, Richard, had been an accountant at the same firm for 30 years and was convinced that education was the only genuine path to success. My mother, Helen, taught elementary school and silently supported his viewpoints. From a young age, I knew I was different from my siblings, David and Claire, who both took the traditional road. Even at the age of 10, I had evidence of a business mentality that perplexed my parents. While the other kids played after school, I ran an elaborate lemonade stand with a variety of flavor selections and loyalty cards for repeat customers. By the age of 13, I was servicing computers for neighbors, charging $20 per hour instead of the local repair shop's $75. My parents saw these activities as cute hobbies, nothing more. Natalie needs to focus on academics instead of these little business projects, my father would say at supper. These games will not pay the bills when she grows up. High school was tough. I maintained good grades while spending my free time reading business books and following entrepreneurs online. While my siblings joined clubs that would seem good on college applications, I started an internet company selling personalized phone cases that I made myself, earning nearly $2,000 before graduating. Despite my reservations, I enrolled in community college to satisfy my parents. It just took one semester to prove what I already knew. The controlled environment felt like a prison, and the business classes were taught by professors who had never ran their own businesses. When I addressed my parents about skipping out to pursue my business ideas, the fight lasted several days. "You will throw your life away," my father yelled, his cheeks flushed. "No child of mine will be a college dropout working minimum wage jobs forever." Despite this, I left school at 19 with barely $2,000 saved from different side hustles. The first few months were terrible. I rented a small studio apartment in a dodgy neighborhood, the type where you never do laundry after dark. I survived on ramen noodles and inexpensive food products while working 18-hour days to establish my e-commerce website. My first 3 business ventures failed totally. I lost money on a dropshipping enterprise because vendors provided substandard products. My social media management service failed because I underpriced my services and burned out attempting to serve too many clients. My endeavor to make handcrafted jewelry did not expand beyond occasional sales at local markets. Each failure offered essential lessons that no college course could offer. I learned supply chain management the hard way, effective client contract structures through unpleasant experience, and production scalability by confronting its constraints personally. The turning point came when I met Catherine at a local business networking event, who was 20 years my senior and had many successful exits. She noticed something in me that my family never did. She became the mentor I urgently needed, imparting practical business wisdom without regard for my lack of academic education. "Education comes in many forms," Catherine told me over coffee. "Some of the most successful people I know learned by doing, not sitting in classrooms." At 22, I polished my business strategy with her advice. I established an e-commerce platform that united small American producers with customers looking for locally made products. The timing was ideal, riding a wave of enthusiasm for supporting small firms and home production. Those early days demanded tremendous sacrifice. I converted half of my little apartment into a makeshift workplace, sleeping on a sofa that also served as my couch. My desktop computer and printer took up much of my living space. I worked from 5 a.m. until 11 p.m., managing everything from website coding to customer service calls. The breakthrough came 8 months later when a well-known lifestyle blogger featured one of our artisan partners. Orders poured in, exceeding our basic systems. I worked for 72 hours straight, fulfilling orders and updating our website infrastructure. That single feature generated $10,000 in revenue, more than I'd ever seen in my account. I called my folks, eager to share my progress. My father answered with wary skepticism. "That is nice, honey, but it is probably just temporary. You know you can always go back to college when this thing runs its course." His words wounded, but they also fired my determination. I would show him wrong, not with arguments, but with incontrovertible results. The following 5 years were a whirl of constant growth and obstacles. My e-commerce site, Coastal Crafted, grew beyond its original concept. We started with only 27 artisan partners across 3 states. By year 3, we had represented over 400 manufacturers and artisans from all 50 states, connecting them with customers who appreciated American-made items. Each level of development presented unique problems. When our server broke during a large offer, I stayed up for 48 hours straight, working with developers to restore the site and personally responding customer emails to retain goodwill. When a larger competitor attempted to lure our top sellers with promises of better terms, I pushed to meet with each one in person, strengthening relationships and boosting our incentive structure. The most challenging period was in year 2, when cash flow almost choked the business. We were growing too quickly for our capital basis, with inventory requirements exceeding income. I went without a salary for 4 months, moved to a smaller apartment to save money, and negotiated longer payment terms with suppliers. Those months taught me financial discipline, which would help me as the company grew. Major milestones occurred in rapid succession. Our first office was a converted industrial facility downtown, and I employed 3 people to manage customer service and seller relations. Midway through year 3, I reached $1 million in yearly revenue, which I celebrated alone in my office with a single glass of champagne after everyone else had departed. Throughout it all, I kept my burgeoning success relatively private from my family. They knew I had a website firm that was performing well, but I minimized the full scope of our expansion. Their initial discouragement had built a barrier that I was unable to overcome. A part of me hoped they'd ultimately ask thorough questions about my job, demonstrating true curiosity, but those conversations never happened. Despite their lukewarm support, I continued to assist my family financially as needed. When my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer in the 4th year of my business, I secretly paid the $75,000 in medical bills that were not covered by insurance. My father revealed an insurance payout that had spared them from medical bills, without realizing its source. My brother David struggled with the down payment for his first home. His financial account was $40,000 short of what he required. I made a family loan through a second account, making it appear to be from a distant uncle. He gladly accepted the money, but whenever we talked about my profession, he kept mentioning getting a real job with benefits. Claire, my sister, had always dreamed of having the perfect wedding. When her fiancé, Ethan, lost his job 6 months before the wedding, I covered the $50,000 difference between the location and food. Claire knew the money came from me, but she reduced it at family gatherings, alluding to my small online business, which was doing well. The gap between my actual accomplishment and my family's perceptions fueled an increasingly agonizing internal conflict. By day, I oversaw strategy meetings for a multi-million-dollar company, made choices that impacted hundreds of partner businesses, and negotiated exclusive collections with large retail chains. By night, I received texts from family members who treated me like I was a college dropout who got lucky with the internet. My company's headquarters grew to a full floor in a downtown office building, with 38 full-time employees and an active internship program. Our valuation rose to $20 million after a Business Insider piece drew the attention of numerous investors. I retained majority ownership, rejecting takeover bids that would have made me wealthy but cost me control of my vision. As my father's 60th birthday neared, I reached a conclusion. It was time to be open about my accomplishments. Not to brag, but to finally break through the myths and hopefully win the respect I had been pursuing for years. I bought a large gift, a fully funded retirement investment account, and prepared to present it along with the truth about my company during his birthday dinner. The night before the meal, I practiced what I would say. I was no longer the uncertain 19-year-old looking for acceptance. I was a successful entrepreneur who provided possibilities for hundreds of American manufacturers and dozens of employees. Surely, that would finally earn my father's respect and alter how my family perceived my odd route. I couldn't have been more wrong. The evening of my father's 60th birthday began well enough. Their house appeared precisely like it had throughout my childhood, with the same furnishings and family portraits on the walls. The sole new addition was a giant television that my brother had bought for them last Christmas, which was prominently displayed as a symbol of his financial commitment to the family. My mother greeted me with her usual reserved affection, a short hug and a pat on the back. "You look nice, Natalie. Did you cut your hair?" It was the same haircut I'd had for 3 years. David arrived with his wife Melissa, dressed nicely in business casual attire that gently emphasized their upper-middle-class background. Claire and Ethan arrived shortly after, and Claire immediately began telling stories about her recent rise at the accounting firm where she followed in our father's footsteps. The partners are already hinting that I might make junior partner next year, she revealed, while assisting to prepare appetizers. Youngest in firm history. During the pre-dinner discussion, no one inquired about my career. When Ethan briefly mentioned viewing an article regarding e-commerce growth, my brother quickly shifted the conversation to his son's minor league accomplishments. Dinner was my mother's typical pot roast with all the fixings, served on fine china saved for special occasions. My father sat at the head of the table, accepting comments on his youthful appearance with reserved modesty. 65 looks good on you, Dad, David replied, raising his glass. Here's to another 20 years at least. The occasion felt appropriate when dessert was presented. I had patiently waited through conversations about neighborhood gossip, David's children's accomplishments, and Claire's forthcoming vacation plans. No one has asked any questions regarding my life or business. Dad, Mom, everyone, I said, my heart racing despite my outward calmness. I wanted to share some news about my company. My father nodded absently, grabbing for another slice of cake. Coastal Crafted was recently valued at $20 million, I told you. We have received several acquisition offers, and I have been featured in Business Insider and Entrepreneur magazine last month. The hush that followed seemed interminable. My mother froze with her fork halfway into her lips. Claire shared a brief glance with Ethan. David just stared. My father was the first to answer, and his tone was contemptuous. What exactly does that mean, Natalie? These internet businesses use all sorts of funny math to come up with these valuations. I remained calm, explaining in layman's terms how business values work, our income sources, and growth trajectory. I highlighted our office of 38 employees and collaborations with over 400 American manufacturers. David intervened before I could continue. So, you got lucky with this online thing. That is great, but some of us have been building real careers with actual qualifications. He stressed the word qualifications as he looked at his wife, who nodded in agreement. It is not luck, I explained gently. It is 7 years of working 18-hour days, solving complex problems, and building something meaningful. We have helped save dozens of American manufacturing businesses that were on the verge of closing. My mother eventually spoke, her tone uncertain. That sounds impressive, dear, though I still wish you had finished your degree. Even with this business, education is important. I was losing patience, but I persisted. Actually, I brought something for Dad. I handed him an envelope containing paperwork for the retirement account I had established. I wanted to ensure you both have a comfortable retirement. My father opened the letter, his face darkening as he recognized what he was looking at. Instead of appreciation, his cheeks heated with something resembling rage. What is this supposed to be? Some kind of charity? He dropped the papers on the table. We did not raise you to throw money around like you are better than everyone. That is not my intention at all, I explained. I just wanted to help, the same way I helped with Mom's medical bills, David's house down payment, and Claire's wedding. 3 heads snapped up at the same time. My hidden financial help was abruptly revealed. You, my father exclaimed. That was all you. Claire appeared humiliated. David's visage hardened into something unpleasant. My mother simply looked puzzled. You have been secretly paying for things behind our backs, my father's voice increased with each syllable. Playing the big shot with your internet money. I was just trying to help, I said, my voice lower than I intended. I never wanted recognition, I just wanted to support the family. Support, interrupted David, by making us feel like charity cases. Some of us work honest jobs with actual degrees, not getting rich quick with online schemes. It is not a scheme, I said, feeling the topic slide out of my control. I built a legitimate business that helps American manufacturers reach customers. We employ dozens of people with good salaries and benefits. My father stood up, letting his napkin fall to the floor. You drop out of college against our advice, disappear into your little internet world, and now you come back throwing money around like you have all the answers. That is not what I am doing, I insisted, struggling to keep my voice calm. You think your money makes you successful? He asked, his voice rising more. You are still just uneducated trash who got lucky. Anyone can get lucky. The room went silent. My mother gasped gently and offered nothing in my defense. David gazed down at his plate, a little smile forming in the corner of his mouth. Claire looked split between humiliation and agreement. Richard, my mother finally said, too late and gently to matter. No, My father insisted, now completely agitated. I have worked my entire life the right way. I got an education, built a respectable career, raised a family. I will not be shown up in my own home by my dropout daughter. I arose slowly, collecting my handbag. I should go. Yes, you should, my father retorted. Get out of my house, you lowlife. Your money does not make you part of this family. We have standards. The words landed like physical blows. I examined each face around the table, looking for any ally or hint of support. There was none. Happy birthday, Dad, I replied quietly, heading to the door with all the dignity I could summon. Nobody followed me out. Nobody called after me. I got into my car, my hands shaking so much that I could scarcely grip the steering wheel. As I drove away from the house where I grew up, I felt something essential had broken and could never be fixed. My trip back to the hotel was a jumble of lamps and tears. I had to pull over twice because emotion overcame my capacity to drive safely. The horrible irony wasn't lost on me. I had a multi-million-dollar firm, yet I was spending the night in a hotel in my hometown because my own family's home was no longer accessible to me. In the sterile silence of my hotel room, I repeated the evening's events, scrutinizing every word and emotion. Had I been too forward and proud? Had I misjudged our family dynamics all these years? The financial assistance I had supplied now felt like a silly attempt to buy acceptance that I could never obtain through my own achievements. I took out my laptop and started documenting every penny I had given my family over the years. The list was extensive. $75,000 for my mother's cancer treatment, paid straight to the hospital and doctors. My brother's house cost $120,000, which included not only the down payment but also additional renovations he wanted months later. $50,000 for my sister's wedding, including the location, catering and honeymoon, which she had no idea I paid for. Countless lesser expenses. My father's auto repair last winter, $22,000. My mother's kitchen makeover, $35,000. Christmas gifts, birthday presents, and emergency bills are all handled discreetly through accounts meant to conceal their origin. Nearly $300,000 in all, not including the retirement account my father had recently rejected. Money I never intended to get back, given freely out of love for a family who had just called me garbage. Around midnight my phone lit up with a text from Claire. Dad is still upset, but he will overcome it. You know how he reacts when his authority is challenged. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of the awful things stated, only the assumption that I would absorb the abuse and return to the family dynamic as if nothing had occurred. I did not reply. The following morning I contacted a therapist in the city where I usually lived. Dr. Mitchell consented to an emergency virtual session that afternoon. Family wounds cut deepest, she said after I told her about the dinner, especially when they target the very things we have worked hardest to overcome. Dr. Mitchell assisted me in understanding the complicated dynamics at play during the next few days. My achievement jeopardized the family structure and the principles that my parents had based their lives on. My financial support, rather than eliciting gratitude, had sparked animosity by emphasizing a shift in power dynamics that they were unable to accept. Your father's identity is built around being the provider and authority, she told me. Your success challenges both roles. I started journaling, documenting not only the previous night, but also patterns throughout my childhood. Subtle ways my entrepreneurial spirit had been discouraged. Times when academic achievements were celebrated while business successes were downplayed, and the constant reminder that, without a degree, I would never really succeed. This method indicated how thoroughly I had assimilated the messages. Despite my apparent success, a part of me still felt like the family failure. The dropout with something to prove. This explained my reluctance to openly reveal my accomplishments and ongoing financial assistance, without recognition. A week after the awful supper, my sister called. I let it go to voicemail. Natalie, please call back. Dad feels horrible about what occurred, we all do. But you have to realize how it appeared. You walking in and basically flaunting your wealth. It was inconsiderate to those of us who had worked hard for our careers. I deleted the message instead of returning the call. The plot twist was breathtaking. Somehow I had become the villain for just expressing facts about my firm after years of downplaying my success. My brother texted next. Family is family. Let's go past this. There was no apology there either, only an assumption that I would accept my assigned role and the treatment that came with it. 2 weeks after the dinner, I made a choice that felt both terrifying and freeing. I would choose self-respect above destructive familial relationships. My new home would be the beach house I had acquired as an investment property in Naples, Florida the year before. Before leaving, I sent a letter to my parents, not an angry tirade, but a genuine confession of hurt and disappointment. Dear Mother and Father, I've spent years seeking your acceptance and respect. To avoid making anyone uncomfortable, I have provided financial assistance for our family while downplaying my achievement. Despite creating a $20 million company that helps to maintain American manufacturing jobs, I've been made to feel like the family failure because I took a different path than you did.